to the minutes of the house.
Okay. Okay.
That's the easiest way.
Okay. That's number 2.
We're going to go out of order.
I thought it was.
It is on. The light. There it is. All righty. If we could have the invocation, please. Joe, you want to do it?
Dear Lord, we pray that you would guide and direct and bless everyone here and open our minds to the fresh ideas that will be presented. Pray that you would be with our first responders, our police department, our paramedics, firemen, and our servicemen. God bless and keep us in all we do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And for the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation will meet at a regular board meeting in the Gun Barrel City Council chambers located at 1716 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas 75156 on Tuesday, November 12th, 2019 at 5 o'clock. Do we have any citizens' presentations? Oh, I'm sorry. I need to do the roll call. I'm sorry. Roll call from my right.
Lawrence here.
Merritt here.
Butler here.
Damiano here.
Foster here.
Kyle here.
And we have a quorum. All right. Walter, do we have any city presentations?
Not at this time.
All righty. This item provides the opportunity for citizens to address the EDC Board of Directors on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. However, in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Section 551.041, the EDC Board of Directors cannot discuss, deliberate, or take action on matters not listed on the agenda. At this time, the Board will receive citizen comments and, if necessary, may refer the matter to the EDC staff for a research resolution or referral to the EDC Board on a future agenda, and we do not have any. So we will continue on to item number 1. Discuss and or take action to approve the recommend that the City Council approve the EDC meeting minutes of October 8th, 2019 and the EDC workshop minutes of September 22nd, 2019.
So moved.
Seconded.
All righty. Any discussion? All right. Let's take a vote from my right.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right. Item number 2, discuss and or take action to approve the recommended that the City Council approve the September 2019 Gun Barrel City EDC month-end financial report. Mr. Kyle? We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All righty. Any discussion?
Yeah, one quick question on that. Joe, in looking it over, did we write a check to the barbecue place?
Yes.
We did? How much was that?
I'd have to go back and look. 25,000.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other discussion? Can we vote to approve and recommend that the City Council approve the September 2019 GBC EDC month-end financial report? Vote from my right.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
Go to the
All righty. Because we have the ladies in here, we were going to go ahead and move the Quilters Guild up a little bit so that they have an opportunity to talk and they can stay as long as they want, or they may leave as quick as they want. So if we could have the Quilters Guild come up and discuss.
Thank you so much. We're here again with our handout, our annual pilgrimage to beg for money. You guys have saved us many, many times, and we really need your help again.
Can you
I-
talk a little bit closer to the mic, please?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yes. I was wondering, I mean, I've made the same speech every year. I know some of your faces have changed, but I was wondering if anybody had any questions about what we do or why we do it.
What are your charities that you promote?
We try to keep everything local. The volunteer fire departments, library, the local chapter of the Special Olympics, Friends of the Animals. Help me out, guys. ASA, yeah. And 4-H. One of the things that we have started doing, the Gun Barrel Police Chief asked for our help. He's trying to soften the interaction between police officers and children, and unfortunately, the most times when they interact, it's not good, either an accident or violence of some kind. And so we've begun making little quilts for the officers to take and have in their cars, so that when they come across a child that is been traumatized in some way, that they can make it better. And so I brought this as an example of some of the things that we try to do. And like I say, the things locally where we want our money to stay. So.
Okay, is the city helping out at all, or do you know?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, thank you, City.
And what amount are you asking for?
Historically, the EDC has given us $2,500. We were hopeful that maybe we could get $3,000. Primarily, our money goes to advertising, and we have historically used street signs and banners. And in Henderson County now, that's tricky. So we're hopeful that we can, with Ben's help, get a billboard. And yeah.
Anyone else?
How many people do you expect to come into the community?
Well, historically, in the last few years, the weather gods have blessed us, and we have had between 600 and 700. Probably 60% of that is local. We do not charge admission, unlike most quilt shows, so that all of the community can come in. And we make a special effort to invite assisted living and those folks so that everybody can be part of it.
Thank you.
All righty. Anything else? Thank you all very much for coming up.
Thank you.
All right. Now, then, item number 3 is open public hearing. In accordance with the Texas Local Government Code 505.159, a public hearing will be held by the Gun Barrel City Economic Development Corporation, a Type B corporation, on Tuesday, November 12, 2019, at 5 p.m. in the Gun Barrel City Chambers, located at 1716 West Main Street, Gun Barrel City, Texas 75156. This is for financial assistance not to exceed $200,000 for LREG LLC. Anybody have anything to say? Open the public hearing, please.
Close it.
All right, no one has anything to say, so it is closed. Item number 4, discuss and/or take action to approve and recommend that the City Council approve a loan to LREG LLC in the amount up to $200,000. Do I have a motion to discuss or take action?
So moved.
Second.
All right, anybody have questions?
Yeah, a couple of them. Is somebody here from that organization? Could you come up to the mic?
Evening.
Good evening. Could you tell us a little bit about your organization?
Sure. LREG is Lakeland Real Estate Group, and that was formed as an umbrella under Lakeland Medical Associates. And what we are currently doing is we have purchased the old CPA building
Close to the mic.
at 2415 West Main Street, Mr. Grantham's CPA building. And inside that building, in turn, we'll be leasing that out to a nonprofit organization called East Texas Community Clinic. And East Texas Community Clinic will be ran by Dr. Douglas Curran and Dr. Ted Meditol, who are both retired physicians from Lakeland, both long-term, 35 to 40 years in the Henderson County area. And so what East Texas Community Clinic will do, and the loan is under LREG because they actually own the building. And so with the loan purposes, and I'll start with that, then I'll go into what East Texas Community Clinic will provide for the community. But the loan purposes will be to expand that building towards the back, another 2,500 to 3,000 square foot, and add parking, and also pay down on the mortgage loan for the building at a lower interest rate so we can offer fair market value to the nonprofit for the lease of that. So, but East Texas Community Clinic, what we'll be is a federally qualified health center. We have to open up, it's called, in short, FQHC, and we have to open up from day one under the rules and regulations from HRSA, the Health Resources group that actually provides the federal funding, but we have to open up from day one and operate for 6 months under private funding. And what we will do is provide medical care for everyone regardless of their ability to pay. We will see adult Medicaid, Medicare, we'll see all insurances, but everyone will be seen. We will use a sliding fee scale for that. And if they're below poverty level, then they ask for a $5 nominal fee for the services, but it's not a required payment on that. And once we're open for 6 months, then we will apply for federal FQHC grant money. And they have 60 to 90 days to come survey the site and look at the operations. And I've been learning all the regulations. They're about 2 miles thick of different things, but making sure we're in compliance with all the federal regulations on that and patient care. And once that occurs, then in January of 2021, we'll receive federal funding from 330B funding, which will provide the funding that our first year we're having private donors. So we're in contact with East Texas Foundation. That is the old ETMC. When ETMC sold their corporation to UT Health, they were nonprofit. ETMC was nonprofit, so they had to put all their funds and proceeds from that into a foundation that goes back to nonprofit and to the community. So we're working with them. We're working with Ginger Murchison Foundation for funding. UT Health, Ardent System, we're working with them. Those three have guaranteed the payment for the first year to kind of fund for care and salaries, etc., until we get up and running with the federal funding and the credentials.
What agency in the federal government are you working with? What agency is this? HUD or what?
It's with the, you'll have to forgive me here, it's with HRSA, and they're the Health Resources. I just went blank on the S, but agency. But what they do is they do all of the FQHCs. For instance, there's one in Athens called the Family Circle of Care. There's one in Kaufman. But they provide agencies, and it's money that the government has set aside to provide indigent and supplement care that for people who are underinsured or non-insured, it provides extra funding so they can be seen. The dilemma we face right now in healthcare is for Medicaid, for instance, to operate and see adult Medicaid or even Medicaid at all. they pay pennies on the dollar, and it's not cash flowing for clinics to have a high load of those. But so what the HRSA agency does is they fund that, and they give a greater funding, so you're able to pay the doctors and meet the requirements and see everybody. One of the requirements is you have to see everybody regardless of their ability to pay or their insurance. You have to provide extended hours. So currently we will open up with hours of Monday through Friday from 8 to 6 just to kind of canvass and see what the need is, and then Saturdays from 9 to 2. And then as we see the need and it grows, then we'll expand those hours however long we need to, which will in turn provide access to care for everyone, for urgent kind of acute cares that are not requiring an emergency room, and we'll kind of free up UT emergency
You
room.
provide diagnostic scanning or any of these kinds of things, or just basically sore throat?
Sore throat, things like that. We're in the process and talks of probably going to purchase a radiology machine, so we'll do basic x-rays, etc., for broken bones. Probably for the first 6 months, we will probably refer those to UT up the street until we get that certification. We have to have the state come out and certify that. We're looking at trying to open up by March. My contractors have looked at me like I'm crazy, but I'm going to try to push forward and have it up and going by March, so that way we can have the HRSA funding and all the federal grants by January. As far as visits staff created, the first year we're looking at non-physician staffing, creating about 15 positions plus 3 physicians, so that'd be about 18 new jobs created, and year 2 increasing that to 23. I'm hoping 28, depending on the need. I believe it's going to take off faster than we're ready. The demand will be more than we're ready for. But
Let me go back to my. You've done well. I got to tell you that. Okay. The reason I'm asking you is because there's no business plan in our packet, and so you've explained a lot of it, and I do appreciate it. One of the things that was in that was that billing would be done or ability to pay would be determined on by ability to pay, and I didn't have the answer to that, but you said sliding scale. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I do want to clarify something because I'm a little confused. You are the owners of the real estate, is that correct?
Lakeland is. Lakeland Real Estate Group owns the clinic.
Okay, and you are starting off by
they're going to
having a nonprofit deliver the services?
Yes. Well, the nonprofit will be leasing the building
from you guys.
From a long-term lease from Lakeland.
Okay.
Currently, the nonprofit, their funding wasn't able to do, and we did a canvas search trying to find suitable clinic space in the Gun Barrel City, because that's where we wanted to start, because the need for care over here is great, and we were non-successful, so they've formed the Lakeland Real Estate Group under Lakeland as an umbrella under Lakeland to purchase the building and lease it back at fair market value to East Texas Community Clinic.
Okay, so have you purchased the building?
Yes, it's already been purchased.
Okay. In going through your numbers, you had a number punched in there for physicians each month.
Yes.
And I just heard you say that, are you going to have physicians in the first 6 months or a year?
Yes. We'll open from day one with, we're going to have 2 physicians, Dr. Curran and Dr. Medital.
Okay.
We will also be hiring an advanced practice provider, a physician assistant, or a nurse practitioner, and they're actually included in the regular employees, not
the regular employee headcount.
In the regular employees
okay.
piece. And then we'll be sending 2 to 3 days a week. Our pediatrician, Alice Splinter, board-certified pediatrician, will come over and see patients in this clinic.
It sounds like, though, no one would be turned away regardless of income. Is that what you're saying?
You're correct.
Excuse me, Ken, pull your mic over. It doesn't come through the...
Coming from Arizona, we had some experience with this. It was it was a county-run facility, and if it wasn't for taxpayers supporting it, it would have probably gone under. How are you going to keep this thing afloat with people coming in for more and more service and not being able to pay?
That's where the HRSA federal grant comes from, and we also will have regular insurance that will be fee-for-service that will make up our budget for regular fee-for-service. Estimated net revenue for that is $1.156 million for the first year for that. And then we've got secured approximately $1 million in grants from private funding that will do the non-paid, the ones that are unable to pay. Hopefully I'm pushing that up to 1.5. I'm crossing my fingers. I meet with another group next week, so hopefully I can push that up to there. And then we also are in collaboration with UT Health. We are starting a family practice residency program, rural residency program. And so that will actually, the residency program will open in Athens, but they will also float over to our FQHC. And so we will get our own residents in May of 2021, and that'll be a 3-year program. So we'll have 4 residents in May of 2021, then 4 more in 2022, and then 4 more in 2023. And so those will all work in the clinic and provide services, and they'll get their continuity clinic and their training from rural health. In May of next year, we will have 4 residents that rotate out of the Tyler residency program into our clinics that will see patients along with the paid physicians. And the residents will be paid through a different state program for the residency training program.
Will you be a total care, including oral and eye and hearing and all that, especially for the children?
For the first year, we're going to contract. We're working on contracting with the local dental office and how that works to comply with the federal regulations is you have to contract with someone who will offer the same sliding fee scale to those patients. And we will most likely supplement that with the grant money that we have. We can have a service agreement with them if they're not able to pay to supplement that office. So since they're not receiving private grants or any federal grants on that, year 2, our plan is to have our own dentist hired in-house who will work in-house and have our own pharmacy and hire our own pharmacist. Part of the federal government program is what they call a 340B pharmacy program. And what that does is it allows a FQHC, a qualified health center, to purchase medications significantly less and then pass that on to, if they're under poverty, below poverty, then they'll get the medications for free. If they're a regular patient who has Medicare and a supplement, it'll act as a retail pharmacy, and we bill the insurances. For instance, a diabetic drug, we're kind of developing this and modeling this after Heart of Texas Health Center in Waco, Texas. They have a residency program. They've been going since 1989, and they now have 6 sites up and going all over Waco and the surrounding area. So that's what our basis is on. But their pharmacy program, they had told us, for instance, we'll just take a diabetic drug, Forxiga, may cost a private pay patient $600 for a month's supply at a regular retail pharmacy. The FQHC pharmacy can get that for $20 for a 30-day supply. And so if the patient is below poverty, then we pass that savings. We take the cost. If their insurance pays 100% for the medication, what that does is the government allows us to bill as a retail pharmacy, and so the difference between what we pay and what the insurance pays goes back into for expanding patient services, more behavioral health, etc., expanding the patient services. So it adds to the funding to help secure it for its longevity, if you will. it's kind of a complicated world with the FQHC, but it's going to be great for our community. Our plans are to open the first one here in Gun Barrel City, and we'll get that up and going, get this one approved, and then we will open an additional one in Athens. We're in talks with UT Health. They will, since we will be doing the residence, they'll build us a building for that, and we'll lease that from them in Athens. And then we'll go around other areas around the lake or the community, East Texas, that needs the areas. As one becomes financially stable and approved and up and going, we'll expand slowly. But Umbrella is our hub and our major first site there.
Will you have any mental health counseling capability?
At the beginning, we will not, but we're working with the Andrews Center to, again, have that agreement so they'll see our patients and maybe rotate in there. We're also working with the Help Center in Athens for them to come over. They have counselors that help their clients and have them come over and provide services. And also with the Medicaid and the Texas Department of Health, working with them to have a caseworker come once or twice a week to help fill out applications, eligibility, if they need, or if they need any other assistance, have that opportunity there. So it'll be basically a community health center, and it'll start in small. Eventually, I think we will outgrow that building, even though we're adding 2,500 square foot. It's currently 2,300 square foot, so that'll put us about to 48 square foot, which will probably outgrow that pretty fast, and then probably be in talks with UT to build us a building somewhere here. UT has a construction fund, our construction foundation for the UT health system, and that's the only thing they can build is concrete and buildings. They can't spend it on education or anything like that.
So if we do this, the loan is to the real estate piece, correct?
Yes, and what I have is, Mr. Peterson was talking about collateral. What I have for Lakeland is, once I figure out once we did the exact terms, etc., I have all of our furniture and equipment, etc., that for fair market value totals about $695,000, and if you went and sold it today, it's about $1.2 million at tax value. And we will provide that list. I'll just kind of call out some things to cover. That way, it'll cover that. You won't need it, but that way it's there so you'll have it as a backup.
This money that you're requesting, is that earmarked for construction/expansion, or is it general fund money, or what?
It's all the construction expansion.
And do you have
and any
that?
leftover will go to pay down the note.
Okay, do you have that budgeted?
The construction
Expansion?
We have that coming up next month. We budgeted about 100 with the new thing. We about 130 to 150,000 is what we're thinking. We're currently getting bids for the final amount, but we wanted a little padding room in there, and then any leftover will pay down the note and go towards that, so we can pass along the savings to the.
I was asked by one of our citizens whether this clinic would possibly cover methadone rehabilitation services.
Yes, I did talk to Dr. Kern about that. I think you'd mentioned that at the Business Expo to me. And I did talk to Dr. Kern with that, and he said that, yes, we could definitely develop a program for that. They're now for the methadone, he said that they are going to a different synthetic medication versus prescribing methadone for that, but it works in the same way that the tapering down on methadone. But yes, that is something that we would be willing to service.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, not for him.
Okay. So,
Thank you. You've done a great job.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Really have.
Yeah.
Lee, you got a minute? He did a great job, and he answered a lot of questions. One of them was the collateral, because I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
see anything as collateral. The other question I have is, we don't have a performance agreement here. When do we get to see one?
We have a draft in the office right now. I got it this afternoon. You'll get to see it at the next meeting.
Okay, so are you asking us to approve this right now, or and send it
Unless
on?
there's something else you want from the folks at the medical clinic. This is a little different generally than most business projects we do, which need a business plan and a marketing plan and all those kind of things. I think these guys are pretty much ready to go, and I think the information you received plus what was in our office should suffice for what you need to fund this.
Well, it's not a matter of funding. We should see the performance agreement before we, in theory, if we're going to send it to City Council, I think we're better off having a full package to send them as opposed to having to wait on the performance agreement.
Well, we just got this information in the office Wednesday, Walter. We got it immediately to Jeff. We have the draft back today, but it's certainly not ready to sign at this point. In my time here, we have approved projects, the amount and the funding, and approved the performance agreement later consistently.
That hasn't worked well all the way through. 2 got through to City Council without us seeing them. So just personally, I prefer to see a whole package. I don't know about the rest of the board, but that's just me. That way there's no loose ends and we don't wind up missing anything.
Question?
And it's also an amount up to $200,000. I don't know that the board would feel comfortable with the whole $200,000. That's why I asked the question about the.
If you take a rule of thumb on it, it's $10,000 per job. So you're looking at $130,000 to $150,000. That's in my 5 years on the board. That's basically what we've done. Now, admittedly, what they're projecting are more jobs than that in years 2, 3, and 4. I get that. And that's a decision up to the board. But if we're going to think about it, we probably ought to start at 130 and then figure out where we go from there. Does that make sense?
Maybe on that question, did you say you're still working on the numbers and the final numbers on this construction? Is that what I heard you say? Is that correct? So if we voted to table this action for a month to get the performance agreement and your final numbers, would that cause you any heartburn?
Could you go up to the mic? Thank you.
I have to go back to the group and it just depends on when the funding would be released, because we may have to go do another to start the constructions, that had the funds in the bank to start the construction, et cetera.
I guess kind of what we're saying is until we really see some firm numbers, 200 is quite a bit of money out of this little budget. Maybe 120 or something else is doable. So if we had some more firm numbers, maybe that would make it a little easier. I'm just speaking for myself. It'd make it a little easier on me anyway.
It'd make it easier on me too. I'd like to see the performance agreement before we vote on it. That's just.
Would it be possible to go ahead and approve up to $125,000 tonight, pending review of the other information, and then we could include that as additional at the next meeting?
That would be a start for the funding. Would that help because we're saying initial funding would be January?
I don't know.
60 days after.
The 8th.
We're just trying to do as we're getting our bids, we're trying to do our construction timeline and then convey that to the clinic on when they can actually open and start seeing patients. So that would make it early January.
How much do you need to actually start the construction? You said you would have to go and get a different funding just to get it started. What is that number?
I would say, at least $100,000 the 125, just that to start with. That would get it going, because you typically don't, you just have to pay them in installments, but you have to give them about
Something up front, yeah.
something up front to get going. The biggest expense will be the building the structure in the back, because we're adding on to it, building the structure and then completing the inside of that. So,
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that the board approve up to $100,000 subject to the approval of the performance report and the final numbers from them, and at which time we can meet and see if there's any extra money that they need that we can provide, or do we think it's justified?
Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
All right, then we'll have a vote as read, if we can vote from the right.
Oh, we vote, okay, just clarify, as read? Or
As he read it.
As he stated
Yes.
it, okay.
Yes, as stated.
Yeah.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right. And item number 5, discuss update on website refresh.
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Ben.
I do mine a little bit differently because I have it over here. So yell your questions out at me. And what I'm going to do is show you guys the rough framework for what we have going with the new EDC website. Keep in mind that Mr. Walter and I are still working on hashing out the final data that we need from the state. So everything is compliant as far as having the right numbers for traffic counts and things like that. But we're fairly close. That's why I was taking pictures of you guys tonight, because that was one of the last things I needed to wrap up the project. Okay. So this is the new home page that we're working on right now for the new EDC website. I'm just going to kind of scroll through it. The consumer or business will have the option of seeing different programs that are available here. We're going to highlight our large employers here at the bottom. We have a call to action here for social media and for getting in touch with the city. And each section, what we've done is simplify how to get the batteries going good. I can just start talking louder if that helps. So anyways, what we have is we've simplified trying to find information, because the biggest challenge that we have in the current site is to try to bring you guys on board with a professional EDC look was simple, easy to get to, and valid content, right? So what we've done is simplify all the data that was on the other side and kind of condense it down into a very easy to navigate way. So once they click this section, they can learn about the EDC, what your mission statement is, how to get in touch. This is where the photos will come in, which is tonight, we just took pictures of the board. We'll have budget and financial data. Area for them to access agendas, minutes, and watch the videos. This is going to be our press release section. Right now we're working on one for the Golden Chick that's coming in. So we're going to have a nice video in there, the partnership that the EDC had with the East Texas Development Center over by Trinity Valley. So that, SBDC, that project that you guys worked on was highlighted there. And that was also a Boost the Business program with the city. So that'll be a great thing to feature there. Under our community section, this will go over demographics, taxes, housing, education, each one of these sections. Just for example, there's government, so we'll break down who's on city council, who's in the court system, who's in Henderson County, state government, and federal in this area. And each one of these will provide data. They'll actually be able to add each one of these sections to the report. That's all, if they want to compare what's on each page. This will be more geared to helping a business owner, which will feature loans and grants, the Boost the Business program, your major employers, consumer spending, which is important. This is our leg flex.
That's great.
so they don't have to scroll side to side. I know that was kind of a quick run through. I can answer some questions now. Yeah, there will be a direct hookup to the city site. Yes, there will be.
What do you have in that community section again? Maybe I guess I missed it.
Under the community tab, you'll go over demographics, taxes, housing. I can show you just a couple of graphs for some of them. Some of it's still in Latin because we haven't finished out the data. I just wrote this stuff up and I'm waiting on it before I have it. Education goes over the school district, what schools are in the area, private schools, higher education, things like that.
Well, how do we make it look good that our school taxes goes to Maybank Independent School District?
Well, that's why I didn't want to focus it just on Maybank. I wanted to say, look, we have private schools in the area. We have a really good school that's a public school, which is the Maybank school system. If you were going to move and have a business in Gunnersville, but you bought a house and can't produce this, you're leased to those other schools. And if you have kids that have already graduated school that are looking for college, you're our public program.
Will there be some data on education and income, those kind of things, census type data?
Okay, how about the non-census data? And when you go to you've done a good job on this, but when you go to the GBC tab, why GBC? How do you get across? We've got companies that we shouldn't have here. We shouldn't have Lowe's. We shouldn't have Starbucks. We shouldn't have Sally Beauty Supply. We shouldn't have Walmart, based on our demographics. But we do, and that's because we have a couple of different economies going on here.
That would be the regional trade section that you're talking about?
Say that again?
The regional trade section that
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yeah.
Lakeplex, and that goes through that, and I have to look at the number to be exactly sure, but it's like around, I think it's 100 and something thousand. That's what's considered in your retail trade zone. Because they look at Cedar Creek Lake, they look at Canton all the way into the lake area. It's basically a radius that surrounds it, but they know
Pretty big.
people living in those communities are going to come into Gunnersville City.
Okay.
This was done by a third-party company that the EDC had hired to do this study for you, and we just got recent numbers, which are the updated numbers for 2019, which is what we're about to get.
So just to zero in on one issue, what are you showing as an average annual income for Gunnersville City?
I would have to go back and look at it.
Okay.
But it's on the side.
So this.
Okay, and I'm only saying because my understanding is that census information puts us at 30-something thousand.
Well, we have two ways to show it. We have to show truthfully, look, this is Gunnersville City in the city limits. This is the
Right.
income. We can't lie about that, right?
I'm not asking you to.
We are where we are. But what we can say is, in the Cedar Creek Lake area, we have an average income of, I think it's 46 or 48, something like that is the average around the lake.
Yep.
So I want to show too, I want to say, here's the city limits and what's happening in the city limits. Here's what's in the retail trade zone. So that way they can see, that's how Lowe's and Starbucks came here. They have their own people that come out and do the study, right? They know this is the area, this is what's happening in the area, this is what numbers are being done here. So all I'm doing is trying to highlight those for them. And so both of those will be in there. You'll have a Lakeplex number, which is our trade zone, and then you'll have in the city limits number.
Yeah, and I only asked that because I was at a show and I got talking with Sally Beauty Supply. They were an exhibitor, and I said, "What do you look for?" And they said, "Well, we want an average annual income of $60,000 per year," and yet they're here. You know, it didn't. I said, "Okay."
Well, I think the regional hub sales is important.
Oh yeah.
Very important because that's what's really why they are here.
Yeah, that's why they are here. Next question, if I'm unless are you okay. If we upload videos for meetings, who does that?
That will stay with Walter, as he normally does it through the software.
Okay, and the same goes for minutes?
Yeah, we're not going to change that. We're going to simplify the linking process to where you guys do what you do, and it will automatically sync with our stuff, so you don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
We're trying to make it easy.
Very good. Thank you.
Good presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
Looks very good.
All right, on to item number.
One last question. Ben, what's your time frame? What's your time frame on having this done?
It depends on the amount of changes that we need to go over with Weed, but I would say probably the end of the month.
Okay. Thank you.
Once everything
Okay.
But I would say we're probably looking at the month or by the next meeting for the EDC.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
All right, on to item number 6. Discuss and/or take action to approve the recommend that the City Council approve the EDC funding of a disc golf course via the city in an amount not to exceed $8,800.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, questions?
Is there a representative here? Or, I don't know who, I've got a couple of questions. I don't know if it's to you or to Lee, I'm not sure. Okay, I'll start with you, Lee. Has the city agreed, or this is going to be built on city property, right?
This project will be on the city park.
And the city has agreed. Who maintains it?
Excuse me?
Who maintains it? Or
The parks people, maybe you should address it to Jeff. Jeff and I have had a conversation.
I don't know who to, that's why I'm saying I'm not sure who to address
Jeff?
it to. I mean, the question really is, has the city agreed to maintain it if we do it?
The disc golf course is going to be placed in the park. Will take no existing structures. Disc golf is a sport that's basically played over natural terrain. We're going to purchase 18 baskets for the 18 golf holes. We will start, the street department, parks department will build one tee box, which will be 6 by 12 feet in dimension. Probably use a crushed granite, crushed rock subfloor, for lack of better words. And then we'll purchase, or we will put in place 18 tee markers that will designate the course. The course is going to be placed kind of around the perimeter of the park, not going to infringe on any existing park structures, any existing park facilities. It's just basically built in and around the peripheral of the park itself. So
Okay.
it doesn't take any additional culturing of the grass. The grass is cut on a regular basis anyways. So just basically using existing park structure with the exception of the 18 baskets that will be utilized for the 18 individuals.
Okay, I'm assuming that you've got your specs on all this from him, correct?
Yes, he has provided kind of a brief or general overlay of the course itself.
Okay.
And where it will begin and where it will end. It will basically start and end in the parking lot. So it's a process of walking around the park, throwing the discs, scoring each hole, and then the 18 holes end pretty much in the same place that you start.
Will it be open to the public? And I know there are a lot of tournaments that go on in these things. How's it promoted?
It will be open to the public, and it will be promoted by Mr. Henderson through his organization. The people that actually play the course will do all the promotion for the tournaments and the events that they plan.
So my next question then, if they promote or bring in a tournament, the whole tournament is their responsibility, not the city's. Is that correct?
Initially correct, yes.
Okay.
So if they host a tournament at the park, will they be leasing the park to be able to use it, and then the city will receive revenue from that, or they use the park for free?
They're just going to use the park for free. It's very non-intrusive. The way the course is laid out, it's not going to infringe on anybody that uses the park for any other purposes. Mm-hmm. The majority of the course is in the peripheral of the park. The more complicated, the more demanding, the better it is for the disc players. So
Right.
They have built their 18 holes in the most demanding or challenging places of the park. It's not right down the middle, out in the open. It's in places that are most challenging.
So I guess my question would also be, if they have a tournament, are they charging people to be involved in the tournament?
I would have to.
And if they are, if they're generating revenue from the park, from using the park, will any of those funds be donated to the city then?
Can I interject? Our representative has a presentation. Maybe all of our questions will be answered in his presentation, and then we can continue with the questions.
Perfect.
Good move.
Perfect. I'm good for that.
Good move.
First, thanks for allowing me back. I appreciate that. I did want to say thank you to everybody that's been involved in this entire process. It is, I know it wasn't something that everybody was very familiar with, but your due diligence, the professionalism, just kind of the interest of it made me feel like I was really being a part of something. So I appreciate that very much. I came into this not knowing anybody anywhere, so it's been a pleasure for me. All we're wanting to do is create a very low-cost activity for the locals that live here. There's 3,000 disc golf courses in the United States. There's probably 70 in North Texas. The closest one to Gun Barrel City was put in Athens in 1988, which is where I learned to play when I was in college. And that's the closest course. The next closest is Canton, and you have Corsicana, Palestine. Tyler has 7 courses. So we have a very vibrant disc golf community here, but there's a real gap in courses to play within this radius. The closest course going west is in Mesquite, Texas. So you have a large gap. For me, it's a 40-minute drive to go to Athens. I can play disc golf in 55 minutes. That's 18 holes. That's a mile and a half of non-walking track exercise, because you're going over some terrain and some unique characteristics that our park has. But that's really the gist of it, is it gives the citizens here a very low-cost alternative to be able to do something, and it can be all age groups. It can be, we're very involved with veterans groups. We're very involved in church groups. The Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, that's all part of our culture. But it is a free sport. Literally, your only cost is the cost of a disc, and while I brought one to show, if you've never seen one before, they can range in price from $2 to $30. So, again, very low cost, very quick activity. I'm a ball golfer as well, member of a country club here, very close. It's a very limited group of people that can play ball golf, I got to tell you. Anybody can play disc golf. Doesn't matter what size, what age, what your handicap is. It's a unique sport in that aspect, so that's why I've kind of taking it on, not just selfishly so I don't have to drive 40 miles, but also to give the youth here, especially the youth, because they need something more than anything else, a place to go and do things. I was fortunate enough to do it when I was 18. I thought I was really good and became a touring pro. Did not work out very well, especially when the kids came along. But since we're empty nesters now and we've decided to make this our home, we feel like this is a great opportunity to do something that it just brings life to the park. And that's really what it's all about.
I've never seen one.
One tell.
Discuss tournaments, if you would. How many you're? You had mentioned that before, and there were different numbers thrown around, income from tournaments, et cetera.
Yes, sir. There are weekly tournaments that are held just like at your ball golf course, where 15, 20 guys get together, you flip off and you play. There's no revenue coming in other than people going to the Dairy Queen and the convenience store. But there are tournaments that are held all around the state and the country that do generate revenue and people coming into town. We had a discussion with a company in Dallas, which is one of the companies we're buying the actual baskets from, and they run tournaments in Tyler, which last month they had a tournament, had 450 people there. That's very, very impressive. All 50 states were represented. We're not going to be to that point, for a while, but we did talk to them about a tournament in March, and selfishly that kind of gave me a timeline to go, okay, we get the baskets in, we put in temporary tee boxes, we figure out exactly where we want everything to be and make sure it's copacetic with what everybody needs. And then in March we do what they call a tier tournament here. And we have a company called Tree Love in Dallas that's what they do. They go around and do tournaments. They make their revenue off of 50 amateur players paying $70 to play for a day, 2 rounds, and if you win merchandise. That's where they make their money at. So there's really not a lot of money that's going to come into the city from that, except the fact that we'll probably all go to Hector's or some other place afterwards, and that's where the tournament, kind of whatever you want to call it, trophy presentation or whatever is done. And we do that because that's kind of a fun thing to do.
Okay, quick question about your budget numbers. We've seen 2 or 3 different renditions of this. The latest here is 18 baskets and 1 tee box at the cost of $100. Is a tee box not required for every hole?
It's not required, but for the long-term growth of the park, it would be. We wanted to make sure that we started off with one, because the crushed granite, I know it will work because I've tested it on the walking track. It's the exact same surface there, but you want to border it so it doesn't flow out. And we wanted to put one in immediately, make sure it's good, use it for a few weeks. Everything else will be temporary tee boxes. If you were to go to Canton, they're teeing off from dirt, right? It's a sign, it's a post, and that's where you tee off from. It also prevents Canton, which is an awesome course, in Cherry Park. It prevents them from holding any tournaments that are major because, if it rains, gosh forbid, now you're slipping and sliding. It's also dirt's very unpleasant to play off of, especially if you're a little older.
Well, the other 17 tee boxes is going to cost another $1,700. Is that included in this $8,800?
I'm sorry, sir, one more time?
The other 17 tee boxes apparently will cost another $1,700. Is that number included in this $8,800? It's my understanding it's not.
No, sir, it's not. That's going to need to be raised from other funds.
Okay.
What's the cost of a tee box?
We budgeted $100 for the first tee box that we wanted to make sure was.
Is that each?
That's what I would budget for each one. Yes, sir.
That's a wooden frame, 1x4.
And yes, we would be. That's a club-funded activity, not necessary to start the course, but for our long-term goal, and certainly to host a tournament here, we're going to want to do that very quickly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing. If you get the tournaments in here.
Will there be any advertising as far as for the local businesses and restaurants and things like that on the tee boxes or posters or whatever around?
That is an opportunity. The baskets have a band around the top of them where local businesses can advertise. I've been a part of a couple of disc golf courses that have been installed in the past, most recently, which was a long time ago, at Audubon Park in Garland. It's just very challenging to go around to all the businesses. I end up taxing my friends, right, bugging them. There will be opportunity, but that'll take a really concerted effort. And the local disc golf community, that may be more than they'll be willing to bite off.
What about when they do come for the tournaments, just some kind of literature or something that maybe we have here, that if you have a bag for your disc golfers or whatever, just some flyer that says, visit these local restaurants or something, because they may not know where those are.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And we do already have a local disc golf Facebook page, and we do have a donation of a community bulletin board that we were going to put up right at hole one. Good. And not only would that give everybody that comes to the course kind of a local way of hearing, hey, this is what time we play on Saturdays, right? It's 9 a.m. It also gives a kind of a map of the course and kind of guidelines to, it's a multi-use park. So everybody, thankfully, in the disc golf community, we don't hit a little white ball 250 yards, but we do throw a hard plastic disc, right, that can go off course, and we want to make sure that there was no blind shots anywhere that could affect any of the park users. So we did want to have that bulletin board up there, and with that, we wanted to make it big enough where it was a community billboard, not just a bulletin board for us.
I've got a question for you concerning tournaments. You've looked at this terrain, which I have not, so it's been changed since the original discussion. How would you rate the difficulty of this particular land set aside for a tournament compared to, you said there's hundreds?
That's a great question. I'm actually very excited about the park, even though we scaled it down and decided not to use the land that adjoined the park. It's got some unique characteristics. It's going to have some different levels of difficulty because you have a lot of non-mow areas out there, which will all stay, by the way. But those are awesome. I mean, you have a pond that we're going to have a drivable par 4 hole on that is something unique to anywhere in East Texas where I played. Sorry, I get very passionate about it. But you're also going to have some elevated tee boxes as you tee off from the levee. Again, the people that walk out there, and I've gotten to know a few of them, especially the ones that feed the goose, they love it. It's like a spectator sport for them because they're getting to watch somebody do it. But the course is actually a lot more challenging and technical than I envisioned, and kind of excited about it. It's going to offer a lot of variances that we don't have anywhere around here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I'm unfamiliar with disc golf. Are there charity disc golf tournaments like with traditional golf?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, a friend of mine is a gentleman by the name of Randy Mecca, and he works with the Scottish Rite Hospital. They put a course in at the Dallas Scottish Rite, and just 2 weeks ago, they put a course in at the Frisco. And he's involved with the Disabled Veterans Association. And literally, they made a Christmas tree out of disc golf discs that they're giving to the youth at the Scottish Rite Hospital. But there's a Veterans for Change tournament that will take place in Shreveport in a few weeks that I've been asked to be a part of. It's a doubles tournament, and it's a lot of fun. It's an annual event. But there was a blanket. I got to quit following y'all. Y'all do such great work. I come up here and I can't compete with what y'all do. But there was a charity blanket in Turner Park in Grand Prairie last weekend where they did quilts and blankets for your entry fee, and then everything else was donated.
Thank you.
One of the reasons that we're doing this, if we do it, was that some of these tournaments last more than 1 day, so we wind up with people spending the night in our hotels. Is that correct?
It is correct. Okay. There are tournaments that run 2 days. In Tyler, the tournament ran 3 days. Okay. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We're going to take a little while to get to that point, but there will be people commute here, and some of them will stay. But I'd say for the most part, you're going to have people come in and spend the day. Yeah. And it's an exciting time for disc golf. Our world champion lives in Plano now. It's a female. She was just on Channel 4 News. She's on the front page of the Dallas Morning News a few weeks ago. So there's a lot of growth into it. It is a fringe sport, which is where really right now a lot of the passion is in the fringe sports. But there'll be a lot of people commute here because it's a cool area and the course is very, very neat. We have a luxury and a blessing that our mowing equipment is right there, and that's not something that you get at a lot of parks. You usually have parks, Audubon Park, for example, it's in floodplain. It's awesome. You can't put a soccer field there, a baseball field there, but it's great for disc golf. You can't mow it a lot. You got to bring mowers in from out, another facility, and if it's wet, they can't do it. Our park is ready, playable, it's 365 days a year.
Okay. Good deal. You've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Had a little bit of practice coming up here. Thank you all.
Any other questions? Walter? All right. Mr. Wyrick?
Do that. Huh?
The other two jumped ahead of me, and I hoped to get up here and say something before they let them get all theirs, but they almost took every question and every answer that I had about all this. I just want to bring y'all up a little bit. We looked at this 3 years ago and started over 3 years ago, and finally we had a gentleman step up here a year and a half ago and take off this project that we've been trying to get going for 3 years. And he put a lot of hard work they put into it, trying to figure out where to lay it out. EDC boards prior, some people, plus Lee, worked on a bigger layout than what they have now. But with the layout they have right now, it's going to get us started here. I've been around Dallas and Carrollton and different places around there, and they have them all over the place. And we looked at it back 3 years ago. We just couldn't get a hold of the right people to get it going here. But one of the biggest things I want to bring y'all's attention on all this here is grant money. I just got back from TNL here a couple of months ago and went through some grant programs down there on how to get money for our city and all. And I was talking to one of the gentlemen down there, and I was telling him about we was getting this golf frisbee in going. And he told me, that's great. He says, y'all get that going. That's just something else we can add on to y'all's grant whenever we go over it. For points, everything's points, and it goes under points, fall under volunteers that's doing the job, helping do the job, amount of people that you think or estimate is going to come into your city and use your park, and it's all about park. That's the biggest thing it's about. They really pushed on us. The more you can get in your park, the more activities and things that you can make happen, and we're looking at right now a couple of different things at the park to try to get grant money on. So this is right here is going to really help us push that point, and the whole bottom line's points. And for the amount of money we're going to spend here is I won't say pennies compared to what we're fixing to try to go after. So it's a great thing. I can't sit here all day and talk about it, but I just wanted to let y'all know on my end of it that we've been trying to get it for a while. Plus, the first one they looked at, they're going to have some extra maintenance, and how they got it laid out now. The park department's already taking care of everything that we're going to be setting up. Plus, it's going to be laid out on our regular park plan up there, which goes in whenever we go after a grant and shows it's part of the parks.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, are we ready for a vote? Any other questions?
Let's vote.
Make a motion.
All right.
I'd like to move that we fund up to $8,800 towards the disc golf.
All right, a vote from my right, please.
I'll second.
This money goes to the city, is that correct? Can we make sure that's in the motion? That we know where the money's going to the city for this project?
Well, it says by the city, so
Okay.
I'd have to amend my motion to include that. Okay. So this money goes to the city.
A second.
All right, and a vote from the right.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right, on to number 7. Discuss and/or take action to approve and recommend the City Council approve Project ICE performance agreement.
I'd like to make a motion that we table this due to some new information that has just come in until the next meeting, until we can get additional information.
And can I get a second, please?
Second.
Do we need to discuss this any further? All right, a vote from my right, please.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right, item number 8. Discuss and/or take action to approve and recommend that the City Council approve facade grant to Infinity Shares in an amount not to exceed $2,306.
I move that we take action to approve and recommend to the City Council approve a facade grant to Infinity Shares in an amount not to exceed $2,306.
I'll second it.
Do we need to discuss this? All right, a vote from the right, please.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right, item number 9, discuss and/or take action to approve and recommend that the City Council approve an amendment for the 2020 fiscal year EDC budget. Can I get a motion, please?
I move that we approve and recommend the City Council approve an amendment to the 2020 fiscal year EDC budget.
I'll second that.
Do we need to do any discussion on this?
Well, for clarification, what are we doing?
What is the amendment? What is the?
Yeah. What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we amending?
Lee?
So this is just money for the projects, both for LREC, as I approved earlier, and for this all will come out of future projects. LREC will just come out and be a new line item. That's just it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All righty. Any questions, discussion? Vote for my right, please.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Foster, yes.
Kyle, yes.
Okay, discuss and/or take action to approve performance review committee.
I'll make a motion that we create a performance review committee to do initial review of performance agreements prior to their review by the entire board.
Second.
Actually, the board has already been appointed, and it consists of Mr. Kyle and Mr. Lawrence, as myself as the backup. In accordance to the bylaws, we do have that authority to do that. So are there any questions?
No, then all we're doing is formalizing it.
We're just formalizing,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So any questions? All right, a vote from the right, please.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Wilshire, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right, item 11, discuss and/or take action to nominate and approve members for a governance committee. Any motions?
I move that we nominate and approve members for a governance committee.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All righty, any questions?
I may have missed it, but is there a definition of what a governance committee does?
I don't think so, Gary. Mr. Lawrence, as being vice president, is charged with reviewing all of our governance documents every year. And so I would certainly like to have him on the committee along with someone else to make sure that we keep all that stuff up to date. It gets stale so fast that I'd like to make sure we do that. And also, if we have incidents that need to be called to board members' attention, they can do that as well.
Okay. What do you mean by incidents that need to be called to board members' attention?
If there are things that are concerned with ethics of the board of directors, they would address those with the board member.
Okay.
Is there something in writing now about what this committee is or does?
No, sir.
So-
No, sir. There's nothing in writing at this point. This is a committee we are just considering putting together, much like the Performance Review Committee.
Okay.
Yeah, what the vice president is generally chartered to do is take a look at the standing rules and the bylaws every 2 years, I believe.
And also our financial documents as well, just to keep track of those. Every once in a while, we run into something in our financial documents that are not quite done correctly.
Yeah.
We'd like to be able to get those changed and then bring them to y'all and have you approve them again.
All right, so are we going to have any nominations for, obviously Mr. Lawrence will be on the committee, but we need one other person? Yes. 2 total, including Mr. Lawrence? 2 total, including Mr. Lawrence? Okay. Okay.
In fact, I've found out recently that if we have 3 people on a committee and another board member talks to them, we have in fact not followed the open meetings law. So if we have 2 people on the committee, and I wouldn't mind having one alternate just in case somebody's busy and we need to do something, they would be able to step in and do that. What that means is we will send them all the information so that they will have it in front of them, visit with them, and if we need them to step in from somebody who's not there, Joe is doing a deal with kids that takes him a bit of time. So sometimes people are gone. If we could have somebody that would step in, that would be great as well.
Okay. As with the Performance Review Committee, any committee like this, I feel like needs to be an officer on the board. I don't know how anybody else feels, but that's just my own personal. So if we can have some nominations.
Well, you've got Joe on the board, right?
Yes, he is on the board.
And he's an officer.
Yes.
So that covers that one. Okay.
So nominations, please.
If Diane is willing to serve, I would nominate her.
Thank you. Sure.
I'll second that. Anybody else? All right, do we want to take a vote on this? Vote from the right.
Lawrence,
For
yes.
Diane, I'm sorry, for Diane.
Lawrence, yes.
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Wilshire, yes.
Kyle, yes.
All right, moving on.
Thank you.
Discussion, let's see. We've already done that one. Walter.
Go to 13.
Okay, number 13, discuss the ED Associates findings and the TE.
Lee had wanted us to have an alternate.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about that. Yeah, we need an alternate for the governance committee.
I would like to nominate Mr. Kyle due to his understanding of the financials.
And I kind of suggest I not be there because I am the treasurer.
Good point.
That's a good point.
You're going to be reviewing me.
Yeah, probably a good point.
Well, it'll make it easy.
Well,
You want to do this?
I'll do it if you want me to.
anybody else?
I'll nominate Kenneth.
I'll do it.
You'll do it? Anybody else? All right. Vote from the right.
Lawrence, yes?
Merritt, yes.
Johannes, yes.
Butler, yes.
Damiano, yes.
Most yes.
Kyle, yes.
Okay, now on to 13.
Question before
Yes.
we move forward.
Yes.
Do we not need to vote on an amount for the Quilters Guild?
No, sir. It says discuss Quilters Guild proposal. It does not say take action on.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. And 13, discuss the ED Associates findings at the TEDC annual conference. Walter?
Towards me. So it was requested that I come back and do a brief presentation over my findings at the conference. These are just a couple things that I found of particular note. For starters, I think the first session I attended discussed PIDs, Public Improvement Districts. This is a very powerful tool, started in the early 90s. Basically, you designate a space, and it's going to have extra infrastructure, improvements, quality of life and place things, just a variety of things. City takes out a bond, higher interest. It's not general obligation, and it is assessed on the people who live within. It'll show up on your property taxes, but it is not a tax. It does not go up and down. It's just a set amount per property. I believe it was considered in this city at one point. I do not believe it was followed through for Heritage Cove. It replaced something called a MUD. MUD goes through your state legislature. It's very messy. This is something a city can approve. Very common in a lot of North Texas and some other areas. And actually, the day after I came back from this conference, someone we've been talking to actually called us and was asking about it. So it's quite a common tool that people are increasingly aware of. Workforce housing, a group called CDS did a market analysis that I thought was interesting. They were doing an analysis of how, rent to income ratio. So average 2-bedroom rent in much of the state is about $1,000 a month, and then based around what they would deem as a decent standard of living, that would usually require you to be making comfortably around $42,000 a year. So that puts quite a squeeze in a lot of communities. And I thought that was particularly interesting in a community like ours where I don't believe we actually have any apartments whatsoever. And so that's something to look at and think about towards the future as anything would come up. If there was any, as we think more about housing, not necessarily us, but the city, as we think about housing opportunities, that's something I think to consider is who can live here and who cannot based around the pricing. Some of the pricing there has to do with apartment subsidies as well. The law's changed there. Miscellaneous. There was one idea someone brought up to me, not quite unsolicited. There was a 3-person conversation. One community, I believe it was other side of the DFW Metroplex, had got a sister city in Australia. And they mentioned to us with the name Gun Barrel City, that might be kind of nice to think about down the road. It takes about a few thousand every year to visit them and vice versa. But with our unique name, which a lot of people comment on at the conferences, it might be something some place in another country had some interest in. Also, I noted that there seems to be what I termed a greater acceptance. We're gaining more positive reputation in the economic development community. Our name is improving, which is very good. That's it.
Thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
All right, item number 14. Discuss thank you letter from Lowe's and Gun Barrel City Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chapter for Expo assistance.
I think if I might, I think you have a letter in your packet from the Chamber of Commerce saying how much they appreciate the money so they can run their operation. Jerry from Lowe's, who you may or may not know, has been the person for the last 2 years that has done the expo with Lowe's and Walmart and Grooms and I don't know who all. Jerry no longer works with Lowe's. Lowe's is having some changes in the way they operate, and so she won't be there again. I think our direction with Lowe's will be to talk to the two manager and see if he might be willing to try to work with the Chamber of Commerce so we end up with one really good business expo.
All right.
Everybody appreciates your help very much.
Thank you. All right. I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right. It is 6:25, and we are done.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey.